I grew up in New Jersey, in a suburban town. For the most part, I was born in Newark, New Jersey. My parents came from working class backgrounds, and yeah, my dad sold stuff. Well, you know, it's interesting. My father's Jewish, my mother's Greek Orthodox, and it was like a real Catholic town. And my mom stayed up all night, and my dad, you know, came home once a week for dinner. And it was like, I always felt like this sense of differentness, you know. And I had a job with Brockton Legal Services, which was a very progressive office at the time. And I was chasing people with a camera who were taking people's furniture and throwing it in trucks, and researching this really horrible slumlord who was doing that, and also serving people with his own tenants with process. And that was after he was or allegedly serving them, saying he served them, not serving them. Then people show up and they find their furniture is getting thrown up in a truck, and that's the first notice they have of their eviction. So you know, it's sort of enlivened my interest, you know, in doing civil poverty law. There were some people out in Washington State that I worked with who were really great lawyers. And, you know, I think we came into our relationships with a common sense of what we were about. But they gave me the technical abilities to actually do something about those things that we wanted to be about. A guy named John Midgley out there, for example. I worked with a woman named Pat Arthur, another guy named Bob Stalker. Good people who and really good lawyers. Yeah, there were quite a few. One of the first major cases I did was in Washington State. We got a call from a mother whose kid was locked up, and for nothing much, you know, some trespass or something, and kind of an adolescent age kid. And so I looked at the statute, and the statute said that a kid like this was supposed to be released on personal recognizance. And I called the jail, and they said, oh, no, we're entitled to hold you for 3 days before an information or a complaint is filed, and then another 3 days before we have to have a hearing. So you add those 3 days periods together and subtract weekends. Kids in jail for more than a week for, I think, hanging out in an abandoned building and smoking cigarettes. And I found out that they did this across the board. Instead of like looking at the factors they should have and just releasing most kids and only holding a very few of them, they always took advantage of those 2-3 day periods and punished kids in advance of any adjudication. A friend of mine named Tim Gallegos, who worked in Eastern Washington, and I said, Tim, maybe you could help me, you know, with some of this investigatory stuff. So he says, sure. I would say, you know, he was very into community lawyering before the term was adopted. And he said to me, he goes, I would ask him, what are you doing? He goes, I'm going out to Eastern Washington. What are you doing? I'm going to move and groove with the people. Okay. So I joined, he took me out there, and he said, well, let's talk to Rolando. Rolando knows a lot. So we stopped at Rolando's. He came, he was in his garden picking jalapeno peppers. We sat down, we drank beer, and it turned out he had worked at that detention center. We had no idea. And he confirmed everything the kids were telling me. So, and he also said, you know, if you sue them, the ambitious detention center director will fight you tooth and nail. But if you go tell him what you know, he'll do anything you want. So we said, all right. So we set up a meeting. We walked in with Rolando, and they saw Rolando. We hired Rolando as a paralegal, and he was in law school. And they saw Rolando, and their faces turned white. They knew that they were just, they were sunk. So we effected a complete reform of the place. We filed a complaint and consent decree after some very easy negotiations that reformed the place completely. They stopped doing it, all that stuff. I think the abiding metaphor that I've always thought was pertinent to legal services work is the myth of Sisyphus. You push that boulder up, and then it comes back down. You push it up again, yet somehow you're happy because you got to take your meaning from the process. So I would I think I often tell people, just do the work. It'll pay off eventually, and even if it doesn't, take meaning from just doing it. Don't have high expectations. It's kind of some people think that's kind of a downer of a message, but I do think that's if you want longevity in this business, I think that's what you need to do.